Starting a new edition can be really tough when you sit down to write lists. It can feel really overwhelming. This video is designed to break that down and make life easy for you. So when it comes to 11th edition list building, it can be really difficult to get it quite right from the bat. Now what I've tried to do here is build a bunch of very different lists. There are a lot of crossovers, I'll be honest, but that is because there are some data sheets that very much have come out on top. If you do want to see my tier list of the Space Marine units that I think are best going into 11th edition, then check that out. That is coming out soon. But what I wanted to do was try and build for all the different styles that Dark Angels like to play. Yes, there are going to be units that are just incredible and therefore they're always in. Inner Circle companions are a great example of that, using the abuse that you can do between cover and -1 to hit, because obviously -1 to hit combos with cover, because cover is a ballistic skill modifier instead. It's really quite disgusting. Now, when I released one of my early videos, a lot of people were like, how on earth do I build the Ravenwing list that he's put out? There's 10 speeders in there. I don't own 10 speeders. And yeah, absolutely fair. What I've tried to do here is try to give a little bit more breadth to that, look a little bit more towards some of the Deathwing that we had in particular, because obviously a lot of people that maybe started in 10th edition will have bought quite a few Deathwing because that was the best for us then. So without further ado, let's kick off by talking about some of those Deathwing. Now this is Inner Circle with Librarius. And in all honesty, I think that Inner Circle has had a massive glow up as part of 11th edition. I think with it being 2 detachment points and allowing it to combo with something else, alongside the fact that objectives are now considerably bigger, I think is really good. So in this list, we do have 18 Inner Circle companions because they are incredible. So we've got Azrael with 6, a Librarian with Advance and Charge with 6, a Librarian with 6 and an Impulsor, and he also has the reactive move, so we can do the shenanigans of jumping back in the Impulsor. A Phobos Librarian with some Infiltrators. I've found that 12-inch Deep Strike Denial has been really useful just to zone my opponent out from dropping in certain areas. I found that being in certain areas of the board is a lot more important in 11th edition. Uppy Downy is something that I think is making a lot more impact, all that kind of thing. And it's also a lot harder to screen in general because of the changes to coherency. So overall, I think Infiltrators are a really solid pick, especially when your opponent can't drop in and shoot them. We've got a Terminator Librarian with Deathwing Knights. And speaking of dropping in, they are going to be starting in reserve and they are going to be rapid ingressing and going after our opponent's expansion objective. Really very useful at doing this because they get the +1 to wound from the Inner Circle ability, and then they'll get whatever ability that Librarius gives them. We know that they love a reroll 1s to hit and wound. That is massively beneficial for our Deathwing Knights. We've seen that with the Lion. So I think being able to take that here, or just +2 movement, really nice and solid. Next, we've got a Lieutenant with a combi weapon because we are in priority assets, so we do need those action pieces. Then we've got a Land Speed of Vengeance, but you can sub that out for a squad of Inceptors. Don't go out and buy a Land Speed of Vengeance. Inceptors are absolutely fine. You can probably see me looking down at my wires at the moment. It's because I've already filmed this video once before and didn't actually plug my mic in, so that might be why I'm looking down. Then we've got some Scouts. I think Scouts are just still really solid. They can't do all the stuff that they used to do of infiltrating and then scouting. That has unfortunately changed, but infiltrating, cheap, they're just efficient, they're decent. I really like the unit. They've also got the up-down ability, which I think is very useful. Next, we've got Suppressors, which is probably another one that you have not seen for a very long time. And that is because they've been terrible. But now that they've had this big glow up because they dish out -1 to hit, again, you combo that with cover and suddenly your army is so much more survivable. Their guns are also not bad as well because AP1 has been significantly buffed. They've got good range to them. They're fast. They're nippy. They've got smokescreen. There's lots of really good things going for suppressors in general. And in a detachment where our disposition demands us to be assets or recon, I really like having a cheap throwaway unit that moves 12 inches and can benefit the rest of the army. And speaking of, we've got 2x5 Vanguard Vets just to go do those actions. Hopefully they'll still be able to take those shields because that would be what I would take them with. And the +1 to wound for them will be really quite nice to make sure that they're dealing with that chaff really nice and efficiently, killing Space Marine equivalents on wounding Space Marine equivalent on 2s. So overall, I think this is a really solid list. The Librarius detachment just gives you that little bit of extra speed. There's definitely some really nice little tricks that Inner Circle has. Librarius is a very exciting one, and I think comboing that with all of sort of these solid 2 detachment points ones is a really nice start for your building lists. So there we are, Inner Circle with the Deathwing. I think that's a really great start if you are looking for a more of an Inner Circle infantry heavy build. So one thing that I've found in testing has been that the speeders are absolutely incredible and their damage output's really good. The speed gets them into all the right places. Now, actually, they don't need the advance and shoot that they're provided by Company of Hunters. So what I was thinking actually is how do we get more damage output out of this? And that's why I've landed on Ironstorm as another option there too. I think this is a really nice little option because it gives us access to purge the foe. And we have the speed to kind of be everywhere that we need to be to cause havoc for our opponent. And I really like that ability. I think it's very powerful, and I think it plays Purge in the right ways. If you want to see my opinions on how you should be playing Purge, I've done a disposition tier list where I break down each of those dispositions and how you should build for them. But with this one, we've gone for Ironstorm and Darkflight. So that is the Ravenwing flyer detachment that allows them to all ignore cover. It's very nice. We've got Azrael with 6 Inner Circle companions. There might be a running theme with that here. We've got some intercessors and infiltrators as discussed. We've got 3 upgraded land speed of vengeances. And then we've got a Nephilim Jetfighter. Now the Nephilim Jetfighter is there because we are playing Purge and it spits out 13 strength 5, AP 1, damage 2 sustained shots, alongside also having its missiles. And the reason with that is that it's very difficult to hide from, and like your chaff units are going to get hunted down by this unit, and also when your opponent tries to shoot it back, it is -1 to hit, comboing with that cover, and then it is also -1 to wound if they fly as well. So it just gives you that little bit of extra flavor to it. I think it's a really solid little ability. If we have the points, we can put the ability to ingress on turn 1. I think I probably will. I think it's quite nice. I think, to be honest, it's a really nice little ability, and it combos really nicely between Ironstorm and Darkflight. Just so many positive abilities, and like when you don't need to worry about holding those objectives or doing actions, that OC0 becomes a lot less relevant, which is really nice. Then we have got some scouts, because scouts are solid. We like scouts. We've got 2 land speeders, 2 hammer strikes, a thunder strike, a hail strike, and a vindicator. So the land speeders, just very good because of that move shoot move. I think it's incredibly efficient, really nice way to play, very quick, really solid output as well for their guns. I've been very impressed. Then we've got 2 hammer strikes. Now what they're going to do is they're going to sit in reserve, they're going to come in from reserve within melter range and absolutely nuke whatever's in front of them. They're very good at doing that, and they also do strip cover for like the Vindicator or something else that may not have that ignore cover ability that most of the army does. Then we got a Thunder Strike. Should always go with a Thunder Strike if you bring in the LSVs. It just really elevates their damage output into vehicles. They will start bullying your opponent with those shots because that flat 3 damage and AP3 is incredibly meaningful now. Next, we have got a Hail Strike. Now, this is a little bit more spicy, and this is because I've seen how much AP1 weapons are really very good. So if suddenly we can turn AP0 into AP1 or AP1 into AP2, I think we just kill people so efficiently. Like, people are still spamming 2-up armor saves, and I think that is so much poorer now because of that change to cover, and we can really take advantage of that. That Hail Strike spits out a lot of shots, really good at killing those little chaff units as well. If your opponent brings like big blobs of Poxwalkers and things like that, it can put a real dent into them. So overall, I think the Hail Strike is a really good piece. And then we've got a Vindicator, just because we can. It's good in Ironstorm. To be honest, this may be changing a little bit. Like, I think the Vindicator may come out for more like speed. I think that's, to be honest, better. Like, give the Jetfighter the turn 1 ingress enhancement and just really go for it with your opponent. I actually quite like that. I think that's pretty tasty. And playing that in Purge, I think, whew, that might be a spicy one. So if you don't have an Nephilim Jetfighter, don't worry. You don't need to play it. There are still plenty of good versions that you can play this list. Switch out for a second Vindicator if you wish. There is plenty of ways to do this. I've just decided that I wanted to play something with a new toy. I think you can get some suppressors in there quite happily as well to support your speeders. Overall, I think this is a great fun list, and having Purge I think that's going to be very tasty. I'm going to try this list, and I think I'm going to do some very nasty things with it. I'm very excited, to be honest. Next, we have a slightly more spicy list, and in all honesty, this is probably the weakest list of all the ones that I'm going to show you, but I was really keen to try and have a go to see if we could build an Unforgiven list that was actually quite good, especially given that it has the take and hold disposition. So I'm quite excited to give that a try. So we've got Unforgiven and the Chaplain detachment here. So we do actually have the choice of two of the best dispositions for Dark Angels, in my opinion, which is both Take and Hold and Purge the Foe. But I do think there's some spice here. It's going to need some good testing. It's going to need some heavy testing. But equally, I think there may be something there once Games Workshop fix the Unforgiven detachment. At the moment, you cannot modify dash when it comes to OC, and when you battle shock, you are OC dash. Unfortunately, that stops the Unforgiven rule from working. Full stop. So, slightly problematic there. Little bit of an oversight maybe, but I'm hoping that we will see some change with that reasonably soon, either maybe in the MFM or in a day one patch potentially. But without further ado, let's talk about the Unforgiven detachment with Interrogation. So we've got a Termy Chaplain with an Ancient Interminator armor and the Pennant Enhancement. So what the Pennant Enhancement does is it gives the unit a 6-up Feel No Pain. And with Deathwing Knights, that's really quite tasty. But here's where it gets more interesting. Those Deathwing Knights also get a 4-up Feel No Pain if they are battle shocked. Now, obviously, it is unlikely that they are going to be battle shocked that often. You know, there's definitely a lot more chance of other things happening because also with the Chaplain, they go to leadership 5. But if they are, my God, the survivability of these boys. You will want to like just elect to not try and unbattle shock them. Obviously, I don't think you can do that, but they are very survivable at that point. But to be honest, for 10 points, a 6-up Feel No Pain, I really don't mind for this unit. This unit is great at just rapid ingressing it, targeting it straight at your opponent's expansion and getting in there, because that Terminator Chaplain, giving that +1 to wound, is really quite useful. So I think overall, this is a really solid little build for that Deathwing Knight sort of delivery system of both a solid, well, 2 solid characters, but also upping their survivability, which I think is very, very important as we move on. And then because you're going to be scrapping over an objective the whole time, the likelihood is they will always have hidden, which I think is very useful. So just make sure that you're playing with that positioning nice and carefully so that you can go to ground. Next, we've got Azrael with 5 Stern Guards. The reason that I like to do this is if I'm taking a detachment that doesn't innately have as much advance and do stuff, I like to have Azrael with those Stern Guards so that he can advance and shoot. He personally obviously can't, but the Stern Guard can. So it just gives me that little bit of extra flexibility. And those guns are actually pretty useful in this new edition because obviously AP1 has increased in value. And then we are also looking at the fact that they've got those dev wounds as well, just to chip a bit more through, and then sustained from Azrael. So I do think Stern Guard, personally only running the 5. I've never been a huge fan of the big 10 brick just because they are just 2 wound Marines. But equally, I think with 5, you're not spending too much. They are solid. Next, we've got Asmodai with 6 Blade Guard vets. Now, Asmodai with his beloved Blade Guard vets, I opted for the 4-up Invuln rather than another squad of ICCs, mostly because I think that I just need that smidge extra survivability because Asmodai has such a powerful ability in Interrogator that if he can survive to the end of the battle and just sort of be battle shocking the whole time, then like happy days. That's going to cause some real havoc for our opponents. So I think that's a really solid little ability. I've been impressed with it so far, and I think Asmodai is a really good little force multiplier, and maybe sometimes he'll generate CP. He won't because you've got Azrael, but you know, he might. Next, we've got 2 Chaplains with 6 ICCs each, and we've got some Impulsors to make sure they get to where they need to be safely. Equally, Asmodai may take one of those slots as well, but to be honest, I think the way I would probably do it is I would start one of the ICCs in the transport, get them out so they're going the 9, and then put the second one in. Next, we've got Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, because he's great, phenomenal little unit. Got some Intercessors for reasons that we've already discussed. Some Eliminators. Now, these guys are interesting. They are another move, shoot, move unit, and with those last few zills, they can do real damage. So I've been impressed with what they can do so far. I want to keep testing it, and I think that move, shoot, move, and benefiting from heavy, I think that can be particularly useful. Then we've got a squad of Inceptors, just because Inceptors are good. And I quite like their plasma in there. I think it's a really nice little solid one. And then we've got a squad of Infiltrators for the reason that we have discussed already. As I say, this is probably the weakest list out of the bunch, but I think this adds something new and interesting, and also gives you an opportunity to play take and hold in quite an efficient way. Is this going to win tournaments? Probably not, but equally I think there might be a build there, and it's well worth exploring to see if you can come up with something yourself. Next up, we've got a list that I literally tried today, the day of filming this video, and it is spicy. I was very impressed with it. Now, I played it in the Disruption disposition using the Fulgaris. You could play it in Recon. I think Disruption is slightly better, but overall I quite like it. I think it's really solid. So we're going to kick off with Azrael and 5 Stern Guard. We've got this in Librarius, Darkflight, and Fulgaris. So basically Librarius, we're giving benefits to all of the Psychic guys. You might see that with some ICCs. Darkflight is obviously the Ravenwing flyers, and then Fulgaris just sort of rounds that out with more benefit for those speeders. And ultimately what this list does is it has so much movement outside of the movement phase. The only thing I feel it really lacks is the ability to fall back and do stuff. There is only one unit that's able to do that, and that is the Advance and Charge ICCs. So you can get bogged down and tied up a little bit too easily for my liking. So there's a little bit of caution around that and how you're going to play that. But we've got Azrael with our 5 Stern Guard. We've got a Librarian with Advance and Charge and the 6 Inner Circle Companions. We've got a Librarian with the Reactive Move Enhancement, 6 Inner Circle Companions, and the Impulsor. They were absolute standouts today. They nuked a Necron Warrior brick of 20 dudes and all the other nonsense in there as well, and then held my opponent's expansion objective and just said, no, that's mine now, you're not having it. Really very impressive. Then we have the Phobos Librarian with some Infiltrators. I've been really impressed with these guys so far, again, for the reasons that we've already gone over previously, but here they're also getting that Librarius benefit. It's not huge, but it's also not zero. So definitely worth a review. I've been really impressed with it so far. Next, we've got some Intercessors, just because sticking home and also getting out, maybe doing some actions, things like that. There's definitely positions where, like, say you're doing Death Trap, you can get those Intercessors to go and do a Death Trap on turn 1. I've been really impressed with them so far, just the amount of shots that they pump out as well. It's really quite solid. Next, 3 upgraded Land Speeder Vengeances, because don't leave home without them. 2 Land Speeders, a Hail Strike and a Thunder Strike. We kind of already covered why these guys are good. I think the Librarius just adds that extra bit of survivability, which does help with the disposition, and also just like the Librarius detachment is just so powerful. I've been really impressed with it so far. So I very much enjoyed having those Librarians being able to support those ICCs so much. And ICCs are one of our best units, if not one of the best in the Codex, full stop. And that's Codex Space Marines, I mean, as well. I've been thoroughly shocked with how good they are with that -2 to hit. They really are something special. Equally, I think maybe the Hail Strike drops out to be something else in this particular build. I'm not sure what, but it wasn't great, but equally I did forget its ability. So that doesn't help. But the amount of reactive moves that you can pull from this detachment, because obviously Land Speeders will move, shoot, move. We've got the reactive move on the Librarian, we've got the reactive move on the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, and then we've got a reactive move out of Fulgaris for all speeders, and then we've got a reactive move for all Ravenwing vehicles after they've been shot. So really solid, just honestly around the block, just very powerful and good at what they do. I've been thoroughly impressed so far with this list, and I do think there is something to it. The game that I played was up against Hypercrypt and the Immortal detachment. It was a 92-92 draw, very, very close. And in all honesty, I think if I'd had a bit more experience of 11th, I definitely think I could have won that game. So overall, super interesting. Really impressed with that so far. And I can't wait to keep refining this list because it's really cool. The only thing you do miss is Armor of Contempt. So you may not be able to teach an old dog new tricks, but I am rather hoping that we can somehow adapt Wrath of the Rock to make it work in 11th edition. And the way I've done this, it's a big old stat check. Which once again is why you are seeing 18 ICCs on your screen. There might be a bit of a running theme here. This is a really simple list. We are stuck in priority assets, which is a little bit disappointing. I don't really like that. So we've got a few more units than I usually would. It's why we've not got any Deathwing Knights in there, which is a little bit of a shame. But to be honest, we just need to max those units that we can bring. Try and bring lots of 4-up invans, all that kind of stuff. So we've got Azrael with 6 Inner Circle companions. And we've got an Ancient Weapons Librarian with, you guessed it, 6 Inner Circle companions. And then just to really mix things up, because I felt a bit stale, I put a Librarian with 6 Inner Circle companions. Turns out they're just really good. So then I brought a Lieutenant with a combi weapon, Samael with 3 Outriders, some Intercessors, 2 LSVs, Scouts, a Thunderstrike, Suppressors, and 3x5 Vanguard Vets. So Samael and the 3 Outriders are there because I just wanted another source of advance and charge and advance and shoot, all that kind of good stuff. And Samael's always fit that really well. Him going up to damage flat 3, really nice. But also I think that those bolters on the Outriders are actually quite good now. And killing 4 wound stuff is actually just really quite tough. I found this myself when I was trying to kill some Locust Heavy Destroyers earlier today. That 4th wound, I think, is actually just super impactful and it really makes it very inefficient to try and kill those things. And Samael himself is just a bit of a beast, especially when he goes up to that 3 damage. The Thunderstrike is just to support that LSV package. I think you could play 2 squads of Plasma Inceptors instead. I would still take the Thunderstrike to support them and just have them all deep striking together. The Suppressors, we've kind of covered this a little bit already, but getting that extra -1 to hit into an enemy unit I think is really very useful, and they're also nice at going off and doing those actions. Speaking of actions, we also have those 15 Vanguard Vets with those shields to fly around and make sure that we are able to do all of those assets and be survivable little pains in the backside that we've been using them for the whole of 10th edition. Overall, I am not sure about this list. I think it deserves testing. Everything kind of hinges on the fact that ICCs are currently a bit stupid, and I could very well see an early patch that takes out the -1 to hit and ballistic skill of cover change. I think that may end up changing quite quickly, which is a little bit disappointing because it will sort of splash damage Dark Angels. But I think there's quite a few armies that can abuse that, which is fine for us because most of our stuff just ignores cover. But actually, it's probably not overly healthy for the game having this much stuff where it's like, oh, you're a Space Marine, you hit on 5s. But equally, I wanted to give Wrath that good run out and see how it would do. And to be honest, I think spamming ICCs is probably the best way. And finally, we have a really spicy one. I really like this list. It is Dark Age, Darkflight, and Interrogation. Now, Interrogation is exclusively in there to give me Purge the Foe. I just thought it'd be fun. But equally, Dark Age and Darkflight comboing together are absolutely disgusting. I actually really played down the Plasma Detachment when it first came out. I think I was wrong. I think there's a lot more spice to the Plasma Detachment now. Now that we have all the rules, I think there's some really good stuff. And I'm really excited to try it. So In this list, we're kind of really focusing on whacking people with as much plasma as possible. So we've got the classic Azrael with 6 Inner Circle companions, the Lieutenant with combi weapon, the Ravenwing command squad with 6 Ravenwing Black Knights, and they are going to have the enhancement to allow them to extend the range of plasma weapons. Then we've got Samael with 6 Ravenwing Black Knights. We are going deep on the Ravenwing Black Knights. The nice thing here is Samael gives the Ravenwing Black Knights the fly, like the unit gets fly, so suddenly they also ignore cover, which I think is incredibly tasty. Then we've got intercessors, 3x3 plasma inceptors, infiltrators, an invader ATV, 3 land speed of vengeance, and scouts. There is nothing overly complicated about this list. It is damage, speed, and brutality. And I love that. I love the power to just hit your opponent really hard and make sure they stop breathing. It is very, very powerful in 40k. It's quite simple. It's a nice list to kind of learn the new edition, get your head around Purge the Foe, get your head around Dark Age, Darkflight, all that kind of thing. I think it's a really good way to kind of learn how to take advantage of the terrain as well. So if this is something that you're looking to learn 11th with, this is a really nice little starting point. I've been very impressed with how the plasma detachment sort of affects particularly the Ravenwing Black Knights. I need to investigate their survivability a little bit more. There is still a large question mark over that survivability, but equally they do have that 5-up invuln, which does help them. The Ravenwing command squad sort of resurrect them onto objectives is also extremely good. Overall, they have all the potential to be an incredibly impressive unit, and add that into the idea where maybe we get the same benefit of not overcharging your weapons and getting D3 shots instead of 1, like they do in the Armageddon box. That would be incredibly cool. So kind of hoping for that, but equally, this is just a really solid, fun plasma list. So if you are excited for plasma, then this is a list you should try because you get to play Purge the Foe as well. You do not want to be messing around with priority assets with this detachment. It's just not worth it. So why would you do that? Instead, take the interrogation. Yes, it is completely useless. It does nothing here, but it gives you Purge the Foe. And that is worth its weight in gold for a list like this, because otherwise the list just can't really do any of the other dispositions overly well. There may be a chance it could do like a subversion, but I don't think it can do recon, and I don't think it can do priority assets. But overall, it's a really fun list. So hopefully now by the end of this video, you have seen all of these lists. You've gone, okay, they look fun. It's probably given you some ideas to try. I think the one that I will be trying next is actually the Ironstorm list. So Ironstorm and Darkflight. I think that's really exciting. And also I kind of really want to make the Nephilim Jetfighter work. So I'm going to try that because also it has the rapid ingress enhancement and that is fun. So I'm going to go and do that. I hope that you can subscribe, like. We've got so many more videos coming. I've got like a full unit tier list where I break down every single unit in the Space Marine Codex and if it's good for Dark Angels or not. So don't miss that one. It took ages to do, so come check that out. Make sure it was worth my while, please. So hit the subscribe, join the Discord down below, and if you do want to contact me for coaching, just head to the website and you can see the offers so you can hit 11th edition with a flying start, much like the Darkflight detachment. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, stay loyal, brothers.